This episode is sponsored by Launch. Are you an insurance agent that is tired of quoting business to try and find a better premium to win new deals? Are you looking for a way to differentiate and stand out from your competition? Well, look no further than Launch. Launch is an industry-leading software platform that gives you pre-built assessments that you can walk through with your prospect. Launch automatically calculates your prospect's risk score, and this allows you to show your prospect the areas you can fix to negotiate better premium and coverage with underwriters. Offer more value to your clients, turn missed sales into closed business, and most of all, become a better advisor to your clients. Visit getlaunch.io today to get more information on how you can use Launch to win more BORs starting right now. That's getlaunch.io to learn more.
Welcome to the Getting Past the Premium podcast, where we focus on breaking down risk management problems bit by bit until we find a solution. If you would like to discuss anything you hear on GPP with us, please reach out using the links in the description. Enjoy today's episode.
All right, well, welcome to the show, Kylie. Happy to have you on.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. So, we were talking a lot about kind of your role, what in the way you described it, I would say your passion in the industry, and around innovation and InsurTech and all that. But kind of before we jump in there, you're going to give everybody, the who you are, what you do, who you work for, all that stuff. And then I think we'll dive into that kind of conversation around all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name is Kylie Hubbard. I'm the Director of Data and Lead Resources at INSURICA. I work on the corporate innovation team. We have a great group of team that is really just surrounding how to keep INSURICA on the head of the curve of innovation, just lead partnerships and lead strategy of how to just continue to bring business in from top to bottom of our production staff. So I deal a lot with that. And then I do a ton with digital strategy, InsurTech, and making sure that we're keeping an eye out on the landscape and just figuring out what we can utilize, what we can leverage, and how we can, get into a digital strategy in the most efficient way for our agents.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I think it's an important function in any company now with how quickly things are changing. But you mentioned partnership in there. What do you guys mean by partnership? Is that different than InsurTech products? And what do you mean by that, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between utilizing InsurTech products, leveraging InsurTech companies, and partnering with InsurTech companies. And not just InsurTech. We partner with everybody, right? We're partnering with InsurTech because that's like a really great place to do that right now in the industry. But we're also partnering with other brokerages, other sales teams, other people in the industry. We can't all write everything. We just can't. It doesn't work that way. So, we're really going about partnership and just looking at, okay, how can we symbiotically live in this space together? A lot of people think about this in terms of InsurTech, right? Particularly from a brokerage standpoint, InsurTech can be scary. It can be encroaching. It can seem like, that space is trying to come in and take over what we're doing. And I think we've really tried to take a stance that we're going to try to work with it, not against it. And creating strategic partnerships with some of those companies to leverage where our strengths are and where our weaknesses are, right? And trying to find partnerships that we can collide together and create lead generation opportunities or referral product opportunities or just creating efficiencies that we may know of that other companies don't, and helping each other grow and learn in this kind of new expanding space is kind of what we mean by that.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's kind of what I gathered. It might have been slightly different in how you use it, but I'm glad you said that because I think those are all important factors in, really how we deliver value, deliver a client experience across the board, and so there's a lot to unpack in there, but you mentioned the whole InsurTech landscape and industry, right? And how
a few years ago, it was like, this is the death of the independent agent, and I'm glad to see that there's a lot of InsurTech products out there, companies that are embracing the independent agency channel. But I also think it's important for the independent agency channel to understand how to leverage and how to embrace these products. And so be curious how you guys, what's been your kind of evolution there, and maybe just you personally or InsurIca as a whole, but how you guys have looked at that, and then how you evaluate some of these products and solutions.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's just one of those things that it is something we're all, from an independent channel, trying to learn how and where we fit in that space. And we have, our kind of history and innovation is long and short at the same time. We've done a lot in innovation, just trying to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve. We have a very large goal to be, 2 to 3 years ahead in innovation at our shop. But the growth really exploded in the last 5 to 10 years when we've been talking about SMBs and those small business units, and that's kind of where it's kind of our incubator, right? We utilize our digital space in the small business units, which is just selling insurance in a different way than a traditional broker does. Really in a way that it's not crazy different. It's all the same information. Insurance is insurance, right? We're putting this place of educating our customers and, being that valid resource and making sure that we have the markets and the resources for those customers. But, we also recognize there's a place for a middle market producer to do risk management. And there's a place where risk management needs to be more heavy and on-site and involved. We also understand that small business is hard to be profitable in, right? It's really, really hard to be profitable in that small business space as an independent agency. So InsurIca had to figure out how to accommodate everyone. And so that's one of the things, that's kind of where I started at InsurIca, was helping our small business unit. And we went through this process of, okay, we already have a bunch of small business on the books, right? How do we service and leverage those customers in a profitable way? They were all living at our middle market brokerages. All of our middle market offices have small businesses because InsurIca prides itself on a community name, right? We build those middle market offices around the communities that we're in, and we're very proud of being a part of those communities. But at the same time, those middle market processes just haven't, they're just not the best use of our broker's time. But also at the same time, it's not even about that. It's about making sure that the customer has the best experience. And sometimes that middle market sales process isn't the best experience and is not the best path for that small business customer, right? So that's kind of how we started in this space. But to do that, you kind of have to go down this digital channel. You have to realize time is money and money is profit. And we have to do all of those things as agencies and as business people. So we figured out some pretty nice processes to, pass that small business that was already written at InsurIca, do specialized agents, specialized account managers who are really good at, providing that same broker experience through the digital channels, right? So through phone, through email, and 8 years ago, that was what you're doing. You're not seeing those people in person. And we figured out a way to do that well. So then on top of that, we built a sales process on top of that, right? So built-in channels of new business and being able to be good sales producers through those same channels. And now we have a couple of producers that are, top 10 of all InsurIca every month in new business growth through these. Yeah, in these small business units. And it's kind of one of those funny things that you just don't ever know if you're going to get to that point. A lot of work of efficiency and tools and everything that we do in allowing those processes to happen has where all that innovation has really kind of like I said, incubated in that space. And it's been really cool to like kind of watch, and it usually is. It's like, if we're going to start something new, if we're going to try to use a new tool, there's been a lot of failures in there too, right? It's like we try something and it doesn't work, but we do it in that kind of small space. And now, the last couple of years, we've seen all this success coming out of, being able to bolster these small business producers in this, typical independent agent manner. And we're still bringing a lot of value as a broker. Some of those techniques are starting to bubble up into the middle market too. Yeah. And that's been kind of cool to see it just kind of grow and watch the innovation like kind of take hold throughout the rest of the space.
That's awesome. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you've accomplished what a lot of people, a lot of agencies are trying to do right now. You mentioned something even in kind of your opening around having to identify a particular target market. And this is something that we're always talking about because we don't think it's, specifically in the small communities that you're referencing and everything else, everyone is centered around, we got to help everybody with everything, right? Like Bob from down the street that runs a bakery, he comes in and he likes to sit down with us. And, the optometrist and then the construction, or, they're all in our shop. Like, how have you guys been able to identify who you can provide this unique, valuable model to, and then kind of manage through that internally?
Yeah, it was a struggle to learn how to do that. And sometimes it still is. I mean, we're not perfect by any means. We even had a situation one time that, in one of our smaller communities in kind of a more rural area of Oklahoma, our INSURICA office is on Main Street. The local dentist office is on Main Street. They have coffee together every morning. And we went through this process of transferring that small dentist office to our digital unit, which is nowhere near. Our digital unit is based in Norman, Oklahoma. So, I mean, it's a good hour from the actual local office. They had been talking to somebody at our small business unit for probably a year on their renewal now, right? Like, they've been serviced. They had no idea. that we had transferred that policy. And that is funny, but also a testament of how good that servicing process can be.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But he walks in, right? The dentist walks in to go have coffee, and he's like, "Hey, can you look at my account?" And she's like, "Well, actually, no, I can't." And then like this whole thing is like, what? And so it's like, you have to know your boundaries, right? So, I mean, there is some attrition that happens in that takeover process and that servicing process, because some people just don't like it, right? Some people just don't like it. The further away from this not being a thing, the easier it's getting. We're learning better about our messaging. We're learning about how to work with our branches and our producers and the account managers in that office to make that transition easier. So that's always something that is difficult, is that messaging. And it's never perfect. And there's always going to be some attrition. There's always going to be some people that just don't like that system. And at the end of the day, we sit in a chair that says we believe a lot in what we do. We believe in the services that we provide. We believe that we're a really good brokerage. We know we are. We really would love to have your business. But sometimes people aren't a fit for us, right? Like, exactly. And we have embraced that. We have channels for almost everybody, we can get somebody a policy in one way or another. We have different teams for different areas and different expertise. So there is not a ton of business that we can't write. There is some business that we choose not to write because it's not our lane. It's not our specialty and not our forte. But just making sure that that transition of service isn't impeded. I think personally, like if you, let's say there's brokerages or agencies out here trying to get better at this space, like the advice that I could give is just make sure the servicing is better, and this, you don't have to be in person to have better servicing, right? It's all about making sure that customer is taken care of in a timely manner in most cases in small business. And so if you're, I personally think they're getting better service in a unit that, you know, specifically handles and services small business in a transactional way. And, you know, I don't like to use the word transactional really, because the process, again, is not really that different. We still have to do some underwriting. We still have to put submissions together. We still have to do a lot of the things that you have to do. But just doing it more efficiently is the key. But making sure that service level from, you know, the middle market down to the small business is, you know, equally or better taken care of, kind of eases that process.
Yeah, I mean,
Totally.
it's like it's almost getting comfortable with just who you are as a firm as much as it is anything else. It's getting comfortable with having a conversation with, you know, the dentist down the street that, you know,
Exactly.
we're rolling out a better process for 90% of our target market clientele. Like, I don't know if you're going to fall in that 10%. And if you do, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
it's getting comfortable in those shoes a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of where we look at that as a truth across the board, right? We call it appetite, right? We have appetites just like carrier have appetites. We know what kind of business we're good at. We know what kind of business we want. We know the types of businesses that we should be putting in our book of business. And that's because we're very data forward. We're a very data forward company, right? We're utilizing and collecting our data in a way that tells us what business we should and should not be working. That is like the backbone of what we do. And then anything outside of that, that's where those partnerships come in, right? Anything outside of that, we find a good home for those other people that just really don't fit in our wheelhouse. And I think that's just I feel like the competitiveness within our industry, you got to be a little competitive. We're all salespeople. Like, that's just how this works. But those relationships we've been able to foster, you know, there might be a direct consumer InsurTech that might be better fit for those customers than us. And so we build those relationships with those people and those companies to make sure that transition reflects like our INSURICA values, making sure that those partnerships and those handoffs, and usually it comes back to help us too, right? Like, those are usually not just one-way referral transactions. Like, so
yeah, like there's so many different things in there that I think are spot on. You know, the using data is one that so bad typically in our industry, but something you were just talking about, I actually would view it a little bit differently in what Ryan was saying too, is that we need to ask ourselves, if we're not good at something, are we actually doing a disservice to the client by not recommending they go find somebody that is better, that knows that business, that can do that for them, you know? And it goes beyond just an E&O exposure. It goes to what are we truly trying to do for the client and getting them the best help that they need. And so I think that's something for everybody to ask yourselves too. And the beauty is it's a lot more enjoyable and it frees you up a lot more when you can get really good at a few things and be okay with those things you're not good at going to somebody that is good at them, and create
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Yeah. I have my boss, mentor here at InSURICA. There's been plenty of times in my job here that I, get really stretched to the max. I wear a lot of hats. It's just something that's normal around here. That's how we grow, right? We grow to where we have a million hats, and then we kind of pare down and go deep. And he always says, like, I want you to be, half a mile wide, 6 inches deep, not a mile wide and a single inch deep. And I have tended to learn and lean on that in a lot of our thinking of how we handle our prospects and our agents and how all of our sales could be more specialized, right? We can always get more specialized, because if you're an expert in that field, right? We have some guys that are really, really darn good at construction. They could talk to you about construction form on the back of their hands, and that's their lane. That's where they should be, and that's what they should be doing. We have small business construction. That's similar, but it takes its own techniques, right? It takes its own knowledge and its own expertise. And then, we've got our healthcare guys over here, and that's their lane. And so we have really taken the stance that we want to specialize. We want to understand our clientele really well, and we want to make sure that the people that are working with those clients understand them really well. Now, there's a lot of those, right? A lot of people in a big brokerage can specialize in a lot of different things. And so it's not like we're completely just saying, nope, we're only a construction shop. That's not what we do at all. But it also gives us the legs to stand on to say, you know what, we have partners that would be a better fit for you. And sometimes it's just like swallowing that and just saying, you know what, you're going to have a better client experience. It's not here. That is rare, few and far between, just because we have built so many different channels. But I think it's an interesting thing that particularly in a middle market brokerage, or one that maybe isn't quite as far along in that kind of differentiating, particularly small and large, because that's where you kind of start, right? Is separating your small and large business. Now, what does small business mean today? Who knows? What is it going to mean tomorrow? Changes every day of
it's different to everybody too.
Small business. Yeah, it's so different depending on where you are. But I mean, that's kind of a place to start. It's just deciding where you want to make those differentiations, and just acknowledging that there has to be different processes for each kind of segment that you're in.
Totally. Well, and I think also, if you can stay in your lane, as we're discussing, it also leads to higher profitability, because you are more comfortable, you have expertise in those areas. And because you mentioned that the time is money and money is profit, I think is how you said it. So I'd be curious, based on, to segue a little bit, you're talking about how much you guys use data internally and all of those things. Now, one of the things that I don't think firms do well enough, we certainly don't, is, obviously it's easy at the end of the year to calculate firm level profit and EBITDA and whatnot, but how do you determine, whether your small business unit is profitable, or just what metrics do you guys track to understand that, because I think that's a very hard thing in our industry, right? We have people that are touching accounts. We don't know how often they touch them and for how long, and so on and so forth. So what do you guys do there?
Yeah, this is definitely where technology takes over, right? You're relying on your systems. We have some pretty incredible phone systems, and we're Salesforce users through and through. We live and breathe by our CRM to make sure that we understand activity level, we understand outcomes, we understand what is happening on accounts at any one time. We're an applied shop. We use Epic for renewals most of the time, and we have pretty rigid activity schedules, and schedules of how we're touching accounts and when we're renewing and when we start reaching out. So all of the tools that we have in place are allowing us to gather that data of activity level. We're just now getting into utilizing, length of call, things of that nature, activity levels in terms of how many emails are being sent, how many text messages are being sent, and how much just actual contact activity is happening. A lot of the data is pretty simple data, though, that just, I think we've had a lot of resist, it's still, I see the memes all the time, right? The sales people not wanting to put their stuff in Salesforce and not wanting to keep their CRM updated. Like, they're funny.
Oh,
just because it's true, right? That's it. Like, one of my biggest challenges is to like coax our sales teams and our production teams into like keeping their Salesforce updated. But that being said, that feedback that we're getting from those agents, we're displaying at all times, right? We have a data science team that is pretty incredible. I come up with all kinds of ideas of how to display data in a way that, speaks back to those competitive agents. They don't like to see themselves on the bottom of the leaderboard. Like they don't like that. And the way that they can keep that updated and track their progress and make sure that, they're doing what they need to be doing is by updating the CRM and updating the data. So we kind of put it in a way that's like, you get to see your results and we use those results. And then we're regularly talking to them about, we're doing a lot of lead generation. We're doing a lot of partnerships. We buy leads. We leverage people like Bold Penguin to generate leads and opportunities for these folks. And those things can't happen if we don't have the feedback and the data outcomes from those systems to tell us what happened, right? I don't want to buy you a bunch of crap leads. I don't want to generate you leads that you're not going to sell. But the only way I know if they're good or not is for feedback. And the easiest way to give you that feedback is through the technology that we've put in place. So we're really trying to leverage the technologies available to gather that data so then we can turn around and use it in a positive way. But we do really try to make that an open conversation between, our innovation and data strategy and digital strategy, just the business arm of the business with that production staff, because we care about what they say. We want to keep them happy. They're the boots on the ground. They're doing all the work. And we all are happier if they're getting the business that they want to write. So it's just trying to bring it full circle and make sure everybody understands, like, we're doing this, and I understand it feels like more work, but it'll pay off in the end because it will improve the quality of the business you get to write.
Well, it truly is such a process too. That's not a conversation that you have one time and then everyone just starts putting stuff in Salesforce. It's
no.
They almost have to see it to believe it. From what I found, you need to have like an aha moment by them putting a piece of data into a system that then spits back out something enlightening that they're like, oh my gosh, if I would have just been doing this all along, I'd be here. Mm-hmm. And then they're like preaching that everyone else should go do it too. But until that happens, it's unbelievable. Elliot and I were here till 10:30 last night having this exact same conversation. And we're like, maybe we just don't pay them until they put it into the deal and hit close convert. Because
we have toyed with those ideas. I mean, honestly, for us, like, really all it takes is displaying it, right? Displaying it well. And that is a ton of what our data scientist, our director of data science, his name is Luke. And Luke just is a master at building us dashboards, and we have them up and we display them, and it motivates everybody to put their stuff in there because they know the people are looking at it. The more people look at it, the less, salespeople are competitive. They
Yeah.
don't want to be at the bottom. Like literally, that's really all it took to get people to comply. There's always more to do. There's always more detail. I, as a data girl, want every little detail about a quote, or I want every piece of premium that comes through on a quote and the quote number, and what time of day did our wholesaler submit that quote back to us, so I can see how long it took. That's asking a lot. I understand. So like we start small, right? We start with how many leads do you have? How many are opportunities? How many have you sold? What kind of revenue did you make on those? Like those are just basic KPIs that just help everybody understand the business better. And so it's been a journey of being able to get way past. Like, I mean, now we are in a space where we are getting more detail, and it's because we've gotten the buy-in. We've gotten our sales team's buy-in of why this is important. And in our middle market offices too, we're really starting to utilize data in a way that is beneficial from a prospecting standpoint, right? We've done a lot of really cool data projects that, just give our producers insight that other brokers aren't talking about. And that's just been super cool. That's not something that I'm at willingness to share at this point, but I'm just throwing it out there that if you can collect data and you can learn how to utilize data, you can build sales systems around that to just empower your producer to have more than just a one-sheeter, and it just opens conversations to allow those producers to be more than just a network. They're true advisors in that space. And that's one of the things we're trying to do is just be innovative in the way that we're utilizing our data, not only to tell us about our book of business, but how we can grow and leverage it.
Enhance the client experience.
Yeah. Well, that's what we go to a lot is technology is not necessarily the answer, but it allows us to create more value for our clients if we do it right and we use it right and we solve client problems.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have, I think the best, we've heard this, everybody's probably heard it a ton, but, there's a lot of shiny objects out there in the tech space, but in identifying what you need, what problem you are trying to solve for you or your client first is the most important step. And then you go find the technology that can do that. It's a trap if we think, we see this new technology and it's great and let's go implement it, and it just seems 6 months down the road, we're not going to be utilizing it because there's bigger fires and it doesn't solve a problem and, all of those things that go into it.
Yeah, for sure. I find issue with some, again, I'm just sitting there looking at the InsurTech world all the time. And it does bother me sometimes from an independent agent standpoint, and even just an insurance professional standpoint, to know that there are a lot of InsurTechs that are being built out there that are decent ideas, but they don't have any insurance knowledge behind it, right? There's nobody behind it that understands the actual insurance process, the actual buying process, the actual underwriting process. Everybody they're tech companies that happen to figure out something that somebody said, oh, that'd be good for insurance. And I personally, that is something that just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Cause I'm like, you don't understand the applications of your product in a way that is useful to our customers. Like, make something that's useful to our customers, make something that's efficient for our brokers. And we're starting to see in this space, agent distribution is not going away.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't go too much into that, but you can read all the layoff news on the InsurTechs right now. There's a lot of issue with just no true insurance knowledge behind the scenes. I've been super lucky to work with some of those companies because they understand that that's a problem. And so, I would hope that some of these technologies reach out to agencies like ours, right? Reach out to brokerages and figure out like how can their technologies work for our large distribution network. And it's been a little frustrating to kind of see in the space. I literally saw somebody's LinkedIn post the other day asking that question. Would you rather start an InsurTech with just technology people or just insurance people? I'm like, man, that's a hard question. I really don't think you can actually do it without both.
Yeah, you need both for sure. No, I think that's I think all the tech industry, just looks at an antiquated insurance industry that is ripe for the picking. And to a degree, they're right, in a lot of regards. Yeah. But they underestimate the value of that human interaction. I don't think necessarily anymore. I think maybe at the start of this whole evolution, there was a lot that did, and now I think it's coming to this really cool spot where we see the happy marriage between the human element and the technology element. We're still learning, still piecing this stuff together, but I think it's an awesome time to be in the industry. And so that kind of maybe leads me to probably my last question for you is, as you've been on this journey of working on all of this at INSURICA, what does anything stick out as kind of like whether it be a really awesome insight with a product that you guys implemented, or a process even, or just something that you're kind of like, that was a really cool game-changing idea and implementation that we did?
Yeah, I've been so lucky to get to, I grew up, I was not involved in insurance really. I was involved in business practices and data prior to, but not really involved in insurance prior to INSURICA. So I really only have like a single perspective, but it's through this last 6 years, like there has really been an evolution in insurance. I kind of got to see it at the infancy of just like exploding InsurTech. And then now I'm really immersed in it and I see it all the time. And I think that it's just a cumulative amount of things that have made what we do special. I would say, just this revolution of using our data is probably the thing that I enjoy the most, because I could see, I could literally see the transformation of, taking a team that wasn't profitable, right? Our small business team prior to, really getting an understanding of our data wasn't profitable. It was losing money every single day, just like most every other small business unit does. It's really hard to make a profit on small business. But probably one of my more proud accomplishments and the thing that I'm like, is utilizing that data and watching our profitability grow, watching us go from, a small team that was writing every single thing that was coming through the door and really fine tuning our data, understanding what our book of business looks like, and then utilizing that to progress our team in a way that now it's very profitable. And now it's one of the more, we have a couple pieces of that small business unit that are like, policy for policy is one of the more profitable year over year pieces of our business. And that's pretty inspiring to say that, just watching the data drive our team that way is probably something that I'm the most proud of.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And it's,
you should be. That's sweet.
We have a lot of these conversations, and it's funny though, those are the ones that do catch me a lot, because firms that have figured that out, well, you look at like even a State Farm, and some of those are like, they can be super profitable writing small business and personal lines. And then the independent channel is like, how can you do that? Like, we lose money all the time and whatnot. But then, I think firms that have really leaned into it and figured it out, it can be one of the most profitable segments of the company, because at the end of the day, those clients have far less like ongoing needs. They don't need a bunch of certificates. They don't need a bunch of policy changes. They don't need a lot of that stuff throughout the year. And so if we're doing our job right at those points in which we do need to educate and everything that you already talked about,
Mhm.
you know, it can set it up really well to operate. And then we handle those particular unplanned activities as they come in appropriately. It can work really well. It takes some thought though, and it takes some research of the solutions and all of those things.
For sure. And I'm excited to see, you know, we've done so much with data in small business because that's the cool, hot place to like figure out how to be profitable in. But now, like, seeing some of these things kind of creep up into the middle market space and figuring out, you know, risk management technology and some of these underwriting capabilities and third-party data enrichment, some of these things that will make like everybody's life easier in terms of just data collection and prospecting and things like that. That's kind of like my next excitement piece right now, is just figuring out how to utilize some of that in our business, you know, focusing a little bit more on middle market because we haven't done a ton of that in that space, but all of those things are like transferable, right? Even if we're focusing on, you know, how are we going to middle market prospect using some of these tools or some of this technology or data, like all of that kind of dwindles down to, there's always going to be small business coming through, whether you're prospecting for it or not. So it's really, yeah, I'm with you. It's an exciting time to be in this space.
No, it absolutely is. It's a lot of fun. So
For sure.
well, I think that's a good spot to kind of wrap up the conversation. This has been fun. I think we could have gone in 18 different ways as usual. It seems like on these, but we'll have to do it again sometime. And talk through some of the other angles on the InsurTech side. So
absolutely, good conversation, Kylie. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Cool. Catch you next time.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Getting Past the Premium. We are excited to continue breaking down barriers and finding solutions together. If you would like to reach out regarding anything you heard in today's episode, find links and contact info in the description. Until next time, have a great day, and let's continue getting past the premium.